following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
14:20 in the morning, 14 minutes and 20 seconds worth of sports talk to get you through your daily commute. Hot takes, recaps, best bets, and a little humor to get your day going in the right direction. Sit back, grab your coffee, and let's get into it. All right, 14:20 in the morning for this fourth day of January 2024. Today's show, as always, is brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase over there at SeatGeek. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to BellyUpSports.com for all of their great sports articles that are out there. One guy, Luca Tedesco, is going to be joining me tomorrow. Make sure you check out his articles over there at BellyUpSports.com. He's going to talk some women's hockey, the PWHL. He went to the game in Boston last night, so that should be a lot of fun talking up with him. And for the new and improved Women's Hockey League, thank you very much to Luca ahead of time for joining us on the show tomorrow. And thank you to everybody who's listened to the show so far this year, and keep things growing here at 1420 World Headquarters, the new and improved 1420 World Headquarters. One of those things. Yeah, the move's almost done. We got almost everything in place. A little small wreck yesterday, but they put the big boy pants on and get everything all cleaned up and straightened out. But one of those things, if anybody's ever moved, you don't go through unscathed. There's nothing you can really do about that. So it's just one of those things that happened yesterday. But we got her taken care of a little bit better than Ross Atkins did. That's a pretty good segue right there. A little bit better than old Ross Atkins did yesterday. This guy, every time he jumps in front of a microphone, he tends to trip all over his lips and not find the right words, and never really turns out right for Ross Atkins. You go back to last year, the Jose Barrios situation, the wild card game in Minnesota. He pretty much threw his manager, John Schneider, under the bus, saying he didn't know what was going on. I still find it hard to believe that they didn't have a meeting about that pitching change, but that's in the past. We're talking about the future and the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm as you guys know, I'm a New York Yankee fan, but I'm also very intrigued with the Toronto Blue Jays. When the Jays are relevant, the baseball interest across Canada goes up exponentially. So I've always got my ear to the ground with what's going on with the Toronto Blue Jays and what's happening with their offseason. Some people are calling it a bit of a disaster. They went out for the big fish, and a lot of people that cursed Friday, I guess it was, a few weeks ago before the Christmas season started, where everybody thought that Shohei Ohtani was on a cross-continent flight, I guess it would be, because you're going from the United States to Canada, although it's just across the border. But everybody thought that Ohtani was going to end up a Toronto Blue Jay. Everybody but my sister, who said there's no way. But anyways, it's their story for another day. Then they thought they were going to get him. They had the money in a budget. They had two separate budgets, apparently, one with Ohtani, because the money they could have made off that kind of a deal. So one with Ohtani, one without Ohtani, and the one without Ohtani was only about an increase of about $15 million, which isn't a whole lot of money to spend in the terms of baseball. You think of a $15 million player in hockey, that gets you the top player right in the sport today, but a $15 million in baseball doesn't get you a whole bunch. The Jays, they went out and got the addition by staying equal. They kept Kevin Kiermaier. They signed him. He's a very good center fielder, very good player. He's not going to hurt your team whatsoever. And then they went out and got everybody's from last season, this time last year, everybody's most hated Yankee, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. They went and signed him away from the Yankees. They gave him a 3-year deal, I think it was. It doesn't much matter at this point. But they got Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. He's a good player, not a great player. He's going to help your team. He's going to assist wherever he can play. He can do a lot of things. He was very excited to go to Toronto. He figures that Toronto has a very good chance to help them win. Of course, you're going to say that when you just get a multi-million-dollar contract. So how much weight you can put in when guys say this, I'm not exactly sure. But it's one of those things where IKF said all the right things. He liked the architecture. He liked Toronto. He liked the city. And both people who visit Toronto or play in Toronto, they all love it, whether it be hockey players, basketball players, or baseball players. It's a destination spot for a lot of teams when they visit, and a lot of players that when they play there, they say they love it. So I don't think Isaiah Kiner-Falefa was lying about that, about liking the city. Whether it's the best chance he had, maybe it's the best chance he had of a team that was looking to sign him, of winning, not the best chance of winning, if you know what I mean. Like there's two separate stories to that. But IKF, he's going to be missed by the Yankees. He came in with a good season last year. He filled in where he had to. He played pretty much every position. I think he even pitched once last year. So he's not going to pitch for the Blue Jays this year. But Kalefa is a good player, not a great player. He's going to help out the Toronto Blue Jays a lot. I don't know if the Toronto Blue Jays offseason is nearly as bad the Blue Jays faithful and the Toronto sports media is making it out to be. I know they wanted to go out and get some bigger fish. They're in on they're in on Ohtani. They were in on the Soto deal. The Soto going to the Yankees. That trade went through a week before Christmas and everything else. But they were in on some other deals and they just didn't get it done because Toronto's a hard sell sometimes for some free agents. There are still some free agents out there. You can think Bellinger is one of those guys who's still sitting out on the outside looking in. Rumor has it he wants a 7-year deal on most, and that because he's one of those guys that he wants to bid the big dollars, but can he stay healthy and everything else? He's a Boris guy. He's Boris going to get the most money he can out of him, but the winter meetings are obviously already done. So what's left on the table? I think Bellinger becomes a Cub. I think he's kind of shut himself out of anywhere else. I don't think he'll be a Blue Jay because he's going to want too much money. And if they only have about 10 to 15 million bucks left, that's not what Bellinger's looking for. So look for Bellinger to sign for the Cubs. You can pretty much mark that one down in stone. But you look at Toronto trying to go out and get free agency. I don't know if their offseason was fantastic. I don't think it was. But the thing is, with a team like Toronto, who was a playoff team last year, I don't think they had to go out and do a whole bunch. I don't think they had to go out and overspend. Would Ohtani have helped? Obviously, it would have on the business side and on the baseball side of things, 100%. DHing next year, you might not get what you want out of Ohtani, but that's just the thing. The business side of things would have been huge. So you want Ohtani on your ball club for that side of things. But I don't think that the Jays could possibly have done any more to add to their team. And maybe this is Shapiro and Atkins' way of saying, you know what, we've been building this team for a few years now. We have faith in the guys that we have. We have faith in the guys that we signed, and we have faith in the guys that we drafted and developed throughout the minor leagues over the years. Was it all Shapiro and Atkins? No. There was the initial there was the Alex Anthopoulos era before that made some deals in 2015, 2016. Now those players from those draft picks and everything else are kind of being those kind of guys. But you look at this Toronto team, they're not a bad baseball team whatsoever. They were a playoff team last year. They're going to contend for the American League East again because the American League East, yes, they have some good teams, but they don't have a lot of great teams. You got to expect that the Baltimore Orioles might take a bit of a step back next year. It was kind of it was kind of out of nowhere. You expect them to have a good team last year, but not get to 100 wins. Will the Jays will the Yankees be a little bit better next year? A little bit, but not a whole bunch better. Soto's going to help that team a lot, but they still have a pitching staff that we're going to talk about next week. Eric Katz coming on the show to talk some Yankee baseball next Wednesday. I think we're doing that one. So make sure you guys tune in for that one. Talked about the Yankees, their offseason acquisitions, but let's get away from the Yankees right now. But you have a situation there with Toronto where they have a pitching staff that was really, really good, and almost top notch. Will they take a step back? They just very well might. But that's not what you don't plan on teams taking on players taking a step back. You build your team around their potential, and the Jays' potential on their pitching staff is very good. If they can find a way, I don't know. They've been shopping Manoah around. Everybody knows about Manoah's struggles last season, how it went absolutely awful from him. And but if they would have got a guy who would have won 10 games last year, or even finished 15 games, or started in 15 games and would have went 500 last year, they're a first place ball club. So will Manoah be on the roster next year to start the season? Who knows? But is he a trade piece? Who knows? But if you get a guy who's not Manoah who jumps into that spot in the rotation, then you're only going to improve your team. So that's just one guy that's not making a whole bunch of money that can help out your team on the pitching staff. And pitchers they're very important to have your team, but the starting pitching position has changed a lot over the years. But they have a pitching staff with their relievers that's very, very good. I wouldn't go as far as saying elite, but they're as close to as elite as you can get out there in Toronto. So you got to think that they're going to be okay on the mound. And then you go around the diamond there. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had one of the I don't want to say that the worst season you could possibly expect to have, because he had a decent season, but not what you're expecting to have. So if he can go out there and do what he's expected to do, or even just a little bit less than 30 home runs, and just have a little south of what he's expected to him, that's a couple, 3-4 more wins across the board for the Toronto Blue Jays. Yeah, you factor in Bo Bichette, who's going to be looking for a new contract. That's both these guys are 2 years away, I believe, from team control, so they're going to be looking for new deals. So this might be the year that everybody's been looking for the Jays to go out and do some damage and have a season where they can actually get something done and maybe win themselves a world championship. Are they right there right now? I don't know. But if they have everybody to achieve where they're penciled in to achieve, it's not too far of the realm of possibility where they're going to have a great season and make the playoffs and do some damage. They just got to get past that wild card game. That's one of those things, the wild card round now. You just wonder that like the Toronto fan base is so up in arms that they aren't doing anything more and they're not adding. But sometimes addition by staying with what you got and hoping the guys that you develop is actually better, and not bringing in a guy and hoping and bringing in a guy and hoping and you just deciding that, okay, is this guy going to be what he's cracked up to be? Bringing in an aging veteran who might not be, doesn't you go on past laurels and what the guy did 10 years ago, because you hear talk of Justin Turner ending up there and Jock Peterson ending up there in Toronto, and I like those players. I like those players 5 and 8, 7, 8 years ago. I don't know how much I like him in 2024, but going out and signing a guy like that isn't it's not a horrible idea if you can get him on the cheap. And then if it doesn't work out and if things aren't going good by the All-Star break, you say thanks, bye, see ya, and we gotta go. We got to move on from you because we only have this. Our window here in Toronto is closing, which it is. There's a lot of players right now that are under the gun right now to perform up to their contract and to get contracts and everything else, which all players obviously are. But the Jays are under the spotlight right now. They've been that little team that everybody's been waiting for them to put something together with the talent that they've had for a long time. So this might be the year where they actually have, put up or shut up. And you know what, you're not you haven't done anything yet. So we can't pat you guys in the back. And you're not getting your names in the Ring of Honor. You're not, you haven't done anything. You haven't won anything. You've been to the playoffs a couple of times, but you haven't accomplished anything. So you know what, now it's time to put your money where your mouth is. And it's time for the players that have been acquired, like George Springer. Yeah, he's got some shiny rings from years ago in Houston, but he hasn't really done anything in Toronto as of yet. So he might have one more kick at the can in him. Is it can or cat? You shouldn't kick cats. It's kick at the can, I'm very sure. But you have those situations right now where the players that they have might just have to buck up and play a little bit better. And if you get some pitching if you get some innings out of Manoah, which they didn't get last year, and you get a few more home runs out of Vladdy, and you have Bichette playing as good as he did last year, maybe not as good. He'll probably take a little step back, but he's close to getting to his prime right now. So if you get these guys all towing the right direction, they just might have a chance to win themselves an American League East, which isn't as strong as people think. Yes, Tampa is always really good, but they never do anything. So I don't think anybody's scared of Tampa. Like, that's the thing. Everybody wonders how Tampa does it year in, year out, and how they end up in a playoff spot year in, year out. They don't spend any money. Yeah, they have some pitchers here and there, but they have a situation there where they don't do anything. So no one's really scared of them. Like, okay, you get the playoffs and right on, you're done. You get 2 more games than the Kansas City Royals got. So who cares, right? So you just wonder, you wonder what's going to happen with the Jays. I don't think it's Armageddon. I don't think it's as bad as the Toronto media is making out to be. Yes, the Toronto media can be a little bit ruthless at times with the way they characterize their season. It's all or nothing. And look at the Leafs, and that's a good win by the Leafs last night. And going with Martin Jones in net, smart move. They got a day off. That's a good move by the Leafs. But we'll talk about the Leafs a little bit later today at 14:20 in the morning here. But I think the Jays are a playoff team. I think they're going to be okay. I think they like the one name that kind of intrigues me a little bit, and I wouldn't sign him right now, and I wouldn't be in a rush to sign him, because you don't want to put a guy in a situation where he goes into training camp and he goes in and like, am I going to make the team or not? But I wouldn't shy away from a guy like Joey Votto. I know it's a flavor of the week, and I know that it's an easy prediction for a podcaster to go out there and make this prediction. But Votto's he's a good player. He's still a good player, and he has that kind of a swagger to him that maybe the Jays need, and he can go in there and he can relax guys a little bit. He can go in there and put a smile on people's faces and take a little bit of pressure off of the microphone of guys like Vladdy, who doesn't talk English when things are going very bad to the media, but like Bichette and Manoah, if he comes back, and he can maybe like IKF, he can take some pressure off these guys. He's got some humor to him. He's got that I don't give a shit attitude, and he can go out and play good for his hometown. It might be his swan song in the major league. So going out and signing a guy like Votto, and I know everybody's kind of thought it a little bit, but now that he's gone unsigned so far in this offseason, and there hasn't been a whole lot of action going on, maybe a guy like Votto ends up with the Toronto Blue Jays and gives them that little spark they need, and that little push that they require. Like, you look back at some guys the Jays got back in 92 and 93 to end their careers, and they end up with world championship rings. So getting a guy like Votto probably isn't not the first guy to say it, but I'm probably not going to be the last guy to say it. But they got a little bit of money left over. Votto's not going to play for free, obviously, and he's going to wait and see what's the best option for him. And maybe just going to his hometown might just be the best option for him. So it'll be really interesting to see how it all pans out, to see where it goes, and to see what might happen in the very near future. I just don't want Jays fans to be jumping off the ledge right off the bat here, because they got a very good team. They got a very young team still, and they got a very good pitching staff, one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. So I don't think there's a need to say the offseason was a disaster. Did they say they wanted to add some pieces last year? Yes, they did when the season ended. But like I said before, Russ Atkins, he's not a media darling by any means. So he talks out of both sides of his mouth, and maybe has a very short memory. So who knows? Who knows what's going on there? But I expect the Jays to be just as good or better than last year. I expect Vladdy to have a better year, because he's too good of a player not to. Do they have some holes? They lost Matt Chapman at third base. Do they move Vladdy over to third base and put who knows at first base? It's one of those situations. But don't jump off buildings yet, Jays fans. Don't jump off the the bandwagon. Sorry, I got a little bug in the throat this morning. I got came up down a little cold last night, but just don't jump off the bandwagon yet, Jays fan. There is still hope. I expect them to be a very good team. I expect them to be better than the New York Yankees. We'll talk with Eric Katz on Wednesday next week, right for Belly Up Sports. He's all over the place, that guy. He's a very busy man, but it's going to be interesting to see what his thoughts are on the American League East. But I think the Jays are maybe the cream of the crop in the American League East. I don't think they're going to take a step back. I think they're going to take a step forward, because their players won't underperform as they did last year. So there's my thoughts on the Jays. So just relax, Jays fans. It's going to be okay, and don't take what Ross Atkins says for don't take it to the bank by any means. He's not the most reliable guy, and he needs to take some sensitivity training or something along those lines, because he tends to blow it on a regular basis. But that's it for my rant for 14:20 in the morning. Remember to go to bellyupsports.com and check out all the great articles. Check out Eric Katz, baseball writer. He's all over the place, and also just lots going on there. And Luca Tedesco from Belly Up Sports talking about the PWHL tomorrow, and get that. Let's get into birthdays. No, it's just an on this day today, and then we'll get everybody out of here and on with your days. And yeah, come on, Jays. Maybe make one trade. Go get Jock Peterson. I like Jock Peterson as a player. I like Peterson more than I like a Justin Turner at this stage. And JD Martinez isn't a bad option at DH either. But then where do you play Springer on off days and everything else? It's just but I like Martinez, but I would definitely take a run at Jock Peterson. I would definitely take a run at him. Yeah, you could probably hit the treadmill a little bit. And why isn't Blake Snell signed anywhere yet? That's an odd thing. It's a really odd thing, because I know the Yankees were sniffing around there a little bit in the last couple of days. But Snell, Cy Young guy, strikes out a lot of guys, doesn't give up any runs, still unsigned. Does he want too much, or do people listen to the 1420 podcast and say, no, this guy's a nozzle. We don't want him around our locker room. So who knows? You don't need another nozzle, because you already got Alec Verdugo there. So two nozzles on one team might be a bit much for the New York Yankees to take on. But anyways, there's my last. It always comes back to the Yankees somehow, doesn't it? Anyways, let's get to her, and then we'll get everybody out of here. On this day in 2006, one of the greatest college football games ever played at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, is number 2 Texas Longhorns took on the number 1 USC Trojans at the 8th BCS Championship. USC entered the game on a 34-game win streak and was the first college football game that featured not one, but 2 Heisman Trophy winners, with the 2004 winner Matt Leinart and the 2005 winner Reggie Bush. Texas came into the game winning 19th Street on their own, and had Heisman Trophy runner-up Vince Young at quarterback. Most commentators had the aforementioned mentioned the Trojans the best team ever and picked the Trojans to win. Not so fast, as Lee Corso, ESPN analyst, was one of the talking heads to pick Texas. The Longhorns led the game 16-10 at the half, and the upset looked like it was going to happen, but USC took a 24-23 lead into the fourth quarter and added another touchdown by Reggie Bush. But that was the Rose Bowl. That was all. It was all Vince Young. After that, Young would score 2 touchdowns in the final 5 minutes and add a 2-point conversion with 19 seconds left to give the Longhorns a 41-38 win and the national championship. Even though I'm a USC guy, that was one of the greatest football games I ever watched. It was exciting right from start to finish. That was quite the game. The granddaddy of them all, the whole on and on it went with the Texas Longhorns. What a game that was all these years later. And forget about all the Reggie Bush stuff and the vacating and everything else. That was one of the greatest football games ever played. And anybody who wants to argue with me on that one, I'll sit down and we'll hoist a beer. We'll talk about that. And hopefully this year's national championship game is half as good as that one. So if it's half as good, it's going to be a beauty for sure, with Michigan and Washington going at it in Houston of all places. Have that, like I said yesterday, just have that game at the Rose Bowl, New Year's Day every year. Done. Problem solved. Anyways, that's 14:20 in the morning. Thank you very much, everybody who's listening. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts, like, subscribe, and everything else. And always talk to people about listening to the show. Tell them all about the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. We appreciate it. Dave and I are at it tonight. For 7:30 tonight, we're going to record, put something down. I want to get his take on, like I touched on it yesterday a little bit, the Pat McAfee situation. I want us to hear what he has to think about it. McAfee went begging yesterday to kind of, to try to cool the Jets and everything else. But I find it hard to believe that McAfee wasn't in on that joke, because those shows are pretty highly produced, and guys don't just spew out those kind of things without something being told ahead of time. So it was a bad look on McAfee's end. And it's odd. It's really odd to me. Anyways, make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. It'll be a live show, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Check your local listings. We'll have Luca Tedesco, I should remember that name, Luca Tedesco, joining us to talk professional women's hockey league. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot going on. There's still some kinks that they're going out, but those young women, actually, they're out there. They're playing hockey. They're playing hard and everything else. So make sure you guys check that one out. 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, noon Eastern. It'll be a 15-minute talk, 20-minute talk about the professional women's hockey league. Make sure you check it out tomorrow on your lunch break or your coffee break, whatever it might be, or just put us on the airways live tomorrow at noon Eastern, 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. That's 9 o'clock Pacific. There we go. Hey, you guys, everybody, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your Thursday. And remember, it doesn't matter where you are. It's who you're with. Have a good day, folks. We'll talk to you later.
You just listened to the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. For beer with sports talk and a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Let's get into it.